Before they took over that part of the house, when John was still living over there.
Why is it you can't believe you're going to North Haven?
Because I haven't been here in so long. I had an enormous influence on this community.
Well, this is where the musical Islands, is this where you rehearsed it over here?
Yeah.
On North Haven.
And wrote it. and performed it with kids from North Haven. I just saw somebody going down to the boat. I see somebody getting in the boat. See them? That would be good.
You want to number back also?
I don't know. Okay.
This is cool.
It is for.
Yeah.
Hi.
You guys want to get in?
Yep.
I'm very, very sick, Mr. Brown.
What are you doing on the coal then?
Well, I'm bringing these people over to show them North Haven. Oh,
Here, John.
oh, thank you, Mr. Brown. I haven't seen you in a long while.
I know. Well, hang around finally.
John, do you want an orange hat?
Down on this seat, Mr. Wolf
Do you want to come? You should go down there.
don't get too much water on the back.
Stand back, puppy.
Right, the other way.
Is this pen?
Get us more balance here.
Well, the thing is, when Matthew first came to the island, he took a picture of me on this boat ride, remember?
I remember very well.
And I had a Greenpeace cap on.
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll let you off the town float. You'll have to go.
Okay.
It'll be easier.
Okay. Yeah. Beautiful day for a boat ride out on the water. It's
I like it this time of year, don't
this
you?
way.
Yeah, there's something about it.
Well, the colors are beautiful. Gray.
Gray.
Gray, green, and kind of.
So Judy,
What?
let's get a boat.
No.
Hello.
Hi, Panda. Hi, Panda.
See?
See me?
Do you see how people adapt here? They grow fur.
Hello.
When they get old.
Well, Jude is much more gray than this.
Yeah.
Jude is 11 years old.
Labs like the water dog. Right boy, girl, what you are.
That is the Waterman's. And that is a house built like a boat. And then this is the Minot family. Susan Minot.
Do I know them?
Those at 12:30.
Yeah.
Back over to Rockland.
Yeah.
And these are run by the state of Maine. They're not privately owned.
Man.
Therefore, they're not repainted.
Oh, look, kids are sledding.
Oh, that's great. Perfect, perfect summer activity.
Right into the road.
It's kind of cool here in the summer. I'm feeling, and the snow didn't melt this year.
And that's
It's like a scene from
Mr.
Skin of Our Teeth, right?
Mr. Brown's houseboat
Oh,
with the blue window.
oh, that's great. That's great.
Yes, he lives there floating around in the summertime.
Oh yeah.
Well, I keep it up very straight in summertime.
Uh huh. Oh, you actually tow it out?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Is that a house right there or an office?
That's the yacht club.
Dock. That's where they, I don't know what they do with it.
You don't know what they do with
Hang
it.
around on rainy days, I guess.
Hang it. The perfect thing. We're pretending everything's okay.
Well,
You can hold me. Is your theater inside that?
sure. Ah,
You want to stop?
no,
You sure?
no. Oh dear.
Just stop. You'll be fine. Just rest, get your strength back, take a slow breath. Good. Lock.
Oh no. Christie's at the back door.
Yeah, the door's open.
The door's open. I'll walk around this side.
Jim, nice to meet you.
And Judy Ressick.
Nice to meet you.
And you know Matthew.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
Tracy.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is the theater.
What time's the show?
Yeah, it's a great theater. It's really wonderful.
Here, I'm
A
going.
bit of a mess right now, John, because we have to take everything out to do the floors.
Yeah.
We're trying to take care of the building, you know. Yeah. Here we have spring.
A little bit. Yesterday for sure, but today.
We're missing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was 45 here. 40.
Yeah, no, it was nice.
So Jim, go to the back of the theater and look how beautiful it is.
There's not a bad seat in the house. There's not. And then, like, we just had a performance the other day that was the high school play. So, I mean, the theater is used a lot for talks or lectures, concerts, plays. And then also, like, I do little kids' music class on the stage once a week. And, yeah, so it's used in all different ways.
I thought it was 144. Well, if they put a,
134. Well, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. So we have been known, but don't tell the fire marshal.
I have to stop recording.
Yeah, that was across the way. Have you been in Calwood Hall?
It's great. I love that you've got the grid up here.
yes.
Well planned.
What is a beautiful theater, John?
I want to film here, Matthew, which would take about half an hour.
It's not a problem.
So you want to begin?
Do we need Jim?
Well, we better wait till they come.
No, but let's ask you a question. What is a beautiful theater?
What?
What is a beautiful theater?
Well, I've been thinking about that. What makes a theater a theater?
Give me one. All right.
So, you asked me what constitutes a good theater. Because this is a theater that I built. And it has the qualities that I think a theater should have. First of all, the seating is arranged in such a way that every seat in the house has a perfect view of the stage. The stage is not ideal in that it does not have any fly space, but we worked out a tracking system and there's sufficient room in the wings to store whole sets and like just pull them on stage easily. When I built the theater with the people in the community, I put in a series of portals that you will find in nearly all of my designs. And they are reminiscent of Robert Edmund Jones, too. You find it over and over again in his designs. And I feel that they make the theater capable of doing anything.
You're talking about these legs, the wings?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they have them at the New York City Ballet.
Yeah.
They're standard at ballet companies.
Yeah.
The control booth is up there, which has a perfect view of the stage, and the shows are easy to run the sound and the lights. But most of all, the first thing a theater should do is invite you in. And I cannot tell you what a success this building has been for the community, because it is filled with people day after day after day. They come here to read or have coffee or to go to the theater. And this was once a very bitterly divided community. And this building has served to unite it. And even people who were opposed to the building initially now come to it and use it.
Like Obamacare.
Like Obamacare. So that's what I think about why I like this building.
$3 million.
$3 million. I think it was $4 million. Now, the other thing is that it is all the colors that you see around you. It is the blue of the water and the grays and the whites. It's like a Puritan New England building.
You designed that?
Roger Morgan was the theater consultant. And then a very kind gentleman named Harry Cobb who is IMP, redesigned the building so that he felt it would fit more into the community. Like, there was this door with the peace sign on it, and they had moved that building, and he joined it up to this building and restored the original look. It was very important for Harry to retain the look of the community.
For the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm impressed by the pipe grid above and out here in the house too, because most school auditoriums and, you know, community centers don't think about the technology of putting on a production. They don't.
No.
They don't.
Well, the lighting system was all designed by Matt Richards.
Yeah, it's great.
So that is the building. But I would like to talk about theater, because I thought about it all last night. There's a quality, or there's something in America that in order to be successful, you have to be the most extraordinary failure. When Walt Whitman published Leaves of Grass by himself, setting the type himself, he sold 3 copies in the first year. When Melville wrote Moby Dick, he was wild with excitement at what he had done, and he found a confirmation of his intentions in Hawthorne's praise of the book. And the book was released to almost total misunderstanding or lack of understanding, and rapidly sank without leaving Ishmael behind, as the Pequot sings in the book. When Fitzgerald wrote This Side of Paradise, he was a wild success for a time. When he wrote The Great Gatsby, it didn't sell well at all. And it wasn't until long after his death that people discovered The Great Gatsby. I don't know what it is. Henry James published the New York edition of his works, and they sold about 400 copies. So that somehow, in order to be a success in America, you have to go through this terrible process of failure. Fitzgerald went through it and documented it better than anybody. But as I said yesterday, Fitzgerald had felt he had failed the system, and that was his fault. I feel that you must fail the system, that if you attempt to function within the system, you cannot possibly do first-rate work. And so Jim Russick's idea of how to publish this book is a fascinating one for me, because I want it to contain plays, and I want it to contain photographs, and I want it to contain a biography of my life. I want it all to be there. I want it all to be contained within one book. And in that way, I think it resembles Leaves of Grass. For years, Walt Whitman accumulated all these shards of poetry and fragments of things which he apparently kept in a box. And eventually he took those things and began to put them together, and he composed Leaves of Grass. And he worked on Leaves of Grass for the rest of his life. He continually altered it and changed it. But that's what the Bingo Bango Orchestra is like. It's like shards of a life.
Well, but you see these pieces come together, you know, let me ask you what you think, you know, because you're.
Well, wait, I want to finish.
Oh, okay, you finish.
So then you come to theater in this country. And there are people who have had immediate success in the theater, like Tennessee Williams with Streetcar. But it's interesting to me that I went to see Giorgio Strehler's production of The Tempest, and I realized I had never seen any theater in this country that could compare to it. Now, why was that? The Tempest was like every moment of The Tempest was sort of orchestrated, like every moment of it was used. When Prospero set Ariel free, for example, Ariel could fly, but she flied on a hook that was fastened into her back and a wire chain. When Ariel was set free by Prospero, he took the hook out of her back. And when he took the hook out of her back, she couldn't walk easily. She tottered. That, to me, is theater because it functions not only on the level of language, but it finds a visual metaphor for the language that is happening. And it tells us something about our lives. Just that one moment, the chain in the back and being set free makes it difficult for you to walk. It's a moment fraught with meaning. And it is a moment of metaphor. In our theater, I realized when I had seen The Tempest that I had never seen any theater in this country that could compare with it. Now, there are certain plays that come close. Streetcar Named Desire comes close. And I think The Skin of Our Teeth comes close.
But you know, what you're talking about with The Tempest, that's not in the text. That's something a director and an actor and a, you know.
Well, why does it never happen over here?
Well, because productions, I'll tell you, as you well know, you have a producer, you have a director, you have a writer, you have if it's a musical, you have a lyricist and a composer and all these people, and they all have a vested interest. And, you know, if Shakespeare had an agent today, he'd say, you can't do that. That's not in the script. If you want to do West Side Story today, you have to use the Jerome Robbins choreography. You can't do it without it.
Well,
They didn't allow.
at any rate, in my opinion, there's been really very little. I think Long Day's Journey into Night is first straight. I think The Iceman Cometh is first straight. There's one other play that I can't think of.
How do you feel about
The Skin of Our Teeth, I think, is good. And Our Town. And I think that's about it for American literature.
what as written on the page, but directors, you know, that's
And it's interesting.
collaborative art. You create something and interpret things and make it relevant for audiences.
It's interesting that Kazan did two of those plays, The Skin of Our Teeth, and but the thing is, Kazan himself realized that he wasn't able to get to the sort of theater that he wanted. He thought he might have found it in Camino Real. And I saw Camino Real, and it didn't do it. I mean, it was an attempt at the theater of metaphor, but it didn't work. It didn't convey its meaning to an audience. Now, I am very concerned about the theater of metaphor, which is something we don't have in this country. And that is that we generally have the most successful plays are realistic plays that follow a plot line, a narrative line, and are realistically acted according to techniques derived from Stanislavski, Mozart. But we don't have a richness comparable to Giorgio Strehler's production of The Tempest. Now, what do I mean? There are two plays of mine that are written in a way that does not conform to the standard means of writing a play in this country. One of them is Madrigal of War, and one of them is Red Eye of Love, the musical. There's a line in Petrarch, where he says, "War is my state." What I was trying to do in Madrigal of War was to write a play that would do that the play itself would be in a state of war, that the elements in it were in conflict with one another. Like you had mind, body, you had life, death, all these juxtaposed forces. And in writing the play, I was very much influenced by Artaud because I'd gotten to know M.C. Richards, who had translated The Theater and Its Double. And I was fascinated with a theater that would be real in performance, that what you were seeing was what was happening. That the performance had the reality, as Artaud says, of somebody signaling through the flames, trying to tell you something. I used Cocteau and Paul Reeb and Misha Cert because I found that during the First World War, Cocteau had organized an ambulance corps, and he had persuaded all the dress designers in Paris to let him use their delivery vans. And so all these dress designers' vans were out on the battlefield, and they were all painted like lavender and shocking pink and orange. And
Not exactly camouflage.
no, but Cocteau's idea was that the war was a reflection of the state of his being, and it was a perfectly natural place to have a picnic. And finally, the final influence was Nijinsky, because when Nijinsky had gone mad, he hired a chateau in Switzerland, and he invited all these people to come watch a performance. And he sat looking at them with his chin resting on his arms for a long, long time. And then he finally got up and he said, "Now I will dance for you the war." He had been imprisoned in Romania before getting to Switzerland. Romania was his wife's country. So he got up, he spread this black cloth cross on the floor. And he got up and he began to dance. And everybody who saw the performance, I don't know how many there were, said that at that moment they knew that Nijinsky had gone mad and that there was no separation between what you were watching and the man himself. It was the perfect Artaud moment.
So madness
So,
is the quotient we need here.
what?
Madness is the quotient.
Well, I think it partly is madness. I think that you go through to some sort of madness. Like I think Van Gogh went through to some sort of madness. I think Fitzgerald went through to some sort of madness. But anyhow, madness has something to do with it. You are divorced from ordinary life for a time. Like, I did go mad. I mean, I told you I collapsed when I was in Dartmouth and I was in Dixon. And for a long time, I lay in a hospital bed, and if I told myself to lift my arm, I could tell it as many times as I wanted. I could not move that arm. And I knew that my brain had been dislocated somehow from my body. And I knew what it was to be mad. It's not a state that many of us would welcome. But it seems to me that it is very often a state in which the greatest works of art were done. Certainly, Michelangelo's ceiling of the Sistine Chapel would have to be a work of madness. That poor man lying on scaffolds year after year to paint those murals. Certainly, Leaves of Grass was a work of madness. Certainly, Moby Dick was a work of madness. And Pierre, less successfully, was also a work of madness. And in Tender is the Night, you have a depiction of madness that I think is one of the most moving in American literature, where Dr. Divers listens to a patient who has some sort of skin boils, and he just listens to this woman's agony in a clinic in Switzerland. And I find them among the most moving pages in American literature.
Let's talk about your work for a second.
So, no, wait. So,
Oh, wait, there's more.
so then you come to a play like Red Eye of Love, which has just been done in New York and was not reviewed favorably by the New York Times. Red Eye of Love is a further attempt to create a theater of metaphor. It is about America. It passes through all these stages of American history. The characters are conceived of as a young idealist, a materialist, a butcher, and a young girl that they both pursue who represents the American dream. And neither of them win her. So that the end of the play is a compromise in a way where all three join up. You can only understand the play if you realize that they're joining up has created the situation that we have in America now. America is this horrible battle between idealism and money, materialism in pursuit of a dream. Now, the play was not understood. In my estimation, it was not understood by Ben Brantley. But if Ben Brantley didn't understand it, who else was going to understand it? I mean, I take him to be on a par with the average theater goer. So I would like Red Eye of Love to be done in London this next fall. But I've made changes in the play to try to clarify exactly what I'm doing, because what I want is a simple theater. I want a popular theater that people go to and have a really good time. I want a theater like Charlie Chaplin's films, which were enormously popular and were all extended metaphors. And I don't think people get their money's worth anymore, and they don't seem to care.
Well,
But I want to give them their money's worth.
well, you want them to think.
No, I don't want them to think. I want them to have a good time. It's as simple as that. So there are 4 plays in the book. All of them represent, well, there are 7 plays in the book, and all of them represent my idea of what theater could be. The Marjorie Kemp is about a woman of enormous ambition to be a saint and little actual ability to be one. That is the whole basis of comedy for me. Somebody who aspires to something and doesn't have the material to be it. Roundabout is a romantic comedy in which I attempt to show all these variations of love, like love that has worn itself out, young love, imaginary love. I was very much influenced by Henri Bergson, the theory of crystallization, how when we fall in love, we make up the person we fall in love with. And in the play, they not only make up the person they fall in love with, when they fall out of love, they remake themselves, and then they remake another girl in their images. And so, to me, it is a classic comedy on a level with something like The Importance of Being Earnest, which I feel is the best comedy in English that I know of. The Summer's Treason, I'm only beginning to understand because it's about 2 brothers, one of whom eventually attempts to kill the other. And I never realized before I wrote this book about my own relationship to my own brother. He does not succeed, the man does not succeed in killing his brother. But it's about somebody who says, it seems to me that life is an education in all the reasons for saying no. I mean, that's what Camus taught us in a way. When we found out what everything was all about, the logical recourse is suicide. But we don't commit suicide. We go on living. And somehow we accept our flaws. We make do with life as it is, as best we can. So it is not lived logically, but on a sort of faith in possibilities. I mean, there might be one moment where you touch another person or move them or give them something for their love. Hammerstein says love isn't love till you give it away. And finally, Madrigal of War, which I talked about. But then there are more. There's Red Eye of Love, which I talked about. And there's Islands. And Islands, in a way, to me, is the most interesting theater experience I've ever had because its results, its effects were palpable. It literally changed this community of North Haven. People who saw it saw themselves in it, and the community changed. It was a very bitterly divided community, and it is not that now. And one of the reasons is because of this theater and this building. But then there's this curious thing that when I finished the book, I found another play that I had altogether forgotten that I had written. I wrote it with a man named Dwight Taylor, who had written like Top Hat and The Gay Divorce. And he was Lorette Taylor's.
Take a breath and you can start over again.
Is there any way to get a drink?
Glass
I
of
think
water.
so, but I can.
But this is what I've been wanting to say.
Yeah, okay. We'll just hold off a second.
You can't go.
I'm not going to, I'm just seeing if they have anything here.
There's a kitchen back in here.
Oh, right.
Kitchen in the, right.
Yeah, in the kindergarten.
I'm just collecting a cup.
I don't know why I'm having trouble speaking.
You're doing fine, but yeah, a glass of water would be great. You got a lot going on there. Matthew, are you changing focal length at all during the?
I'm trying, yeah, on
Yes,
some
we
questions.
have a little bit of cutability. Yeah, that'd be good.
I would suggest that you,
So you were going to tell us about
So-
Charlie.
After I had finished writing the book, I was looking for a photograph of Lee Payton, who's one of the characters in the book. And it was of her after she had gotten slightly older from when I first met her. And I kept going through these boxes, and I found this play called Good Time Charlie. And I sat down to read it. It had been written by myself and Dwight Taylor. Dwight Taylor was Lorette Taylor's son, and he himself had written things like The Gay Divorce and Top Hat. And I Wake Up Screaming, as a matter of fact. He was a very successful screenwriter for a time. Before I moved to Nantucket, I was hanging out on 6th Avenue, and on the back of Michael Smith's motorcycle, Michael Smith was the drama critic for the Village Voice, I met a girl named Dune Arbus, who was Diane Arbus's daughter. And Dune asked me where I was going.
grab the water.
Oh, sorry.
You can start over on that one.
Dune Arbus asked me where I was going. And I told her that I was going to Nantucket, that I was going to move to Nantucket. And she said, would I have any trouble finding work there? And I said, oh no, there's lots of work. And we parted. And the next thing I knew, I met her on Nantucket. And she said, you're the one who's responsible for my being here. You told me I wouldn't have any trouble finding work. And look at me. She said, I've been cleaning toilets. And she had a for hire sign that she made that she hung around her neck. When I told this to Dwight Taylor, he said, oh, we must make a play out of that. He loved the idea of a girl with a for hire sign around his neck. So we set to work, and I did meet with Dwight. But I truly cannot remember that he wrote anything. But anyhow, with him and at his encouragement, I wrote this play called Good Time Charlie. When I read it over, I was fascinated by how I had used so many details of my life to construct the play. Like the girl in the play was all taken from Lee Peyton. She was like a will-o'-the-wisp that sort of went through and enchanted you for a moment and was gone. And the play was about accepting the reality of a real situation with a real woman. And it was all set on Nantucket. And the setting fascinates me even now because I had a friend named Loring Hayden on Nantucket. And he would get these houses and begin to dismember them, where he would move walls around and he would take out paneling from one room and put it into another. So that when you went into his houses, they were just this mass of wreckage. And he lived in that. And I made that the setting for the play. The young man in the play has come to the island and he's persuaded somebody to let him rebuild a house. And he's gotten it into such a state that it is totally unlivable. And so I used all these things out of my own life, but I used all this dialogue out of Lee Peyton, out of the Lee Peyton story. And the other thing that fascinates me about all the plays is they all have seasons in them. I'm in love with the idea of spring, summer, autumn, and fall. And the reason I'm in love with that idea is because of a book that I had as a child called Mother Nature and Her Children, which was all about the changing of the seasons. And for some reason, that book has haunted me. And I've used that idea of people going through seasons. Time, it's...
Not just people.
What?
Not just people, trees.
Trees, everything. But it's the whole basis of islands. It goes through a whole year on North Haven, from spring to summer, to fall, to winter, to spring again. It's in Marjorie Kemp. It's in Madrigal of War. It's in Good Time Charlie. It's in the plays over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say.
Okay. I think that's a lot. I want to let rest up. And also, when is that boat coming back?
The boat's here, we just have to let him know when.
I just need to.
What do they call must know.
And I don't. But as soon as you say it, it will come back to me.
If you shear sheep, what is that called?
Shearing.
What is a pub feature? It's 6 letters. Like mugs or ale or
Bitter.
what?
Bitter. B-I-T-T-E-R.
That wouldn't be a pub feature.
Well, it's a kind of beer.
No, but it isn't beer.
6 letters?
Yeah. What is a minimus is a little one. Minimus is a little one. Part of Jumbo Trail Mix. And I'll tell you how many letters. You must know that, Tracy.
Oats, granola,
Quaker Oats. It's a long one.
granola.
No, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 letters.
So it just stays open, you come and it's
Yeah, you see this.
whatever it is.
But look at, you saw the pictures of the Mikado.
Yeah,
It was gorgeous.
yeah.
Are you through?
Almost, John.
Are you trying to get silence also? Mitch?
Yes. Just a few seconds of silence, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
So Mitch,
We're good.
do you
It's-
want me to go get it for you, or do you want to go?
I'll go and get it.
Are you going to film the departure of the theater or no?
No, I think it's okay.
We can all go over to Foy's. It's easy. Because we'll be going out the back door anyhow.
Yeah. Oh, so we're gonna go to the other pier?
I think that's already parked.
Stay there, sweet. Stay.